Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tuesday with Terry. It's great to be here. You're talking to us live, and I say us. I have a special guest today I want to introduce you to, but you're talking to us live from Austin, Texas, and Phoenix, Arizona, and both places. The sun is hot, the barbecue is sweet, and all the drinks are free if you hang out with me. I'm excited for this episode because I have a great story and a great friend that you're going to love this story, and I'm going to introduce him with a poem that was written by a gentleman named Ed Dolish, who used to be the president of the 49ers and was with the Memphis Grizzlies. But the poem goes like this. I have a friend named Neal. He was living a life headed for a worm's meal. To say at one time he was fat would be a massive understatement of that. He spent most of his life in a land named Over 8. He once weighed in at 458. When his heart stopped beating at a regular rate, he decided to change his lifestyle swiftly. Here was a guy who was working in sports. On most days, he couldn't even put on his shorts. His life turned around when he lost 261. These days, you'll find him always on the run. He shares his story with many others. The 199 guy is growing a band of healthy sisters and healthy brothers. Here's Neal Bendesky, the 199 guy. Neal, welcome to Tuesdays with Terry.
Wow, this is such a blessing and so much fun, right? I see the smiling TD,
there you go.
Mr. Orange Theory, so seriously, thank you for letting me be a part of your show.
You're welcome. So I got to understand the 199 guy. How did you get the name 199 guy? What does it mean? How did that come about?
Well, listen, when you're living a life of, as Andy Dolich mentioned, I was 450 pounds, and before I actually moved to Arizona, Terry, I was in St. Louis, and I realized working in athletics that I wasn't really living the part. You know what I mean? So I needed to figure it out, and I started walking. A lot of us do what we need to do, right? So I walked on a track and, at our son Logan's high school, and I didn't miss a day. And I lost 35 pounds, and then I moved to Arizona. I was 415. Well, it kind of comes to me, the first thing that happened is I got motivated, right? I got motivated to do this thanks to, this thing. And there's a friend of ours, maybe Parrish Lamb, was involved with Orange Theory. And one of our coaches, I was working for the Rattlers. So it was my job to find people like Orange Theory and do what I do. So anyway, I did. So I show up at Orange Theory, and I was like, oh my God, this is I'm getting motivated to do this. But the fact is, back to your question of 199, I went to, this is real life. So there's a very good job placement guy, in sports. And, here in Arizona, there's Grand Canyon University. And Bob Bodine, who you may know, the Power of Who guy, great friend, he introduced me to then the athletic director of Grand Canyon. And I kept saying, God, this is crazy. I could be that person, but I don't look the part. You know what I mean? So I don't know what came about, but, at the time, I'm a baseball coach. And both of our boys are playing travel baseball, Justin and Logan. And there was a movie that came out, Mr. 3000. You remember that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bernie Mac, pretty funny. And at the end, he was short and he became 2,999. Well, I don't have that much weight to lose, dude, but I did have a lot to lose. So I decided I was going to be 199. I got done with that lunch. I called Bob Bodine straight up and I said, dude, I read your book, The Power of Who. And guess what? I'm going to be the 199 guy. I'm going to lose 199 pounds. How
much did you weigh when you made that decision? When you made the decision, I'm going to be the 199 guy, how much did you weigh at that point in the time?
415.6.
Gotcha.
That was my official Orange Theory weigh-in.
Gotcha. So you decide you're going to be the 199 guy. You go to Orange Theory Fitness. You start the program, and you had something traumatic that happened to you, correct? I mean, it was.
Well, first of all, going back, when I was in St. Louis, I'm a binge eater, right?
Okay.
So I used to love to go to my son's pizza spot, have a couple slices of pizza, and then take the third one, because moderation is a big part of my success in moving forward. But at the time, I didn't understand that. So Justin comes out one day, and it was just in today.com, which was a nice article that was written about me. And it said, my son said, "Hey, Dad, I think it's time for a salad." So that was the kind of start. But the truth is that my pivot point, and that is a big part of this process. You find a pivot point, your why, right? So that was October 12th, 2015.
What happened?
I'm in an Orange Theory. I had started, like I said, the program. I was failing. I was showing up and it was good, but I didn't understand a very important part, because exercise is 20%. A little boy says to me, I have a 5X red top on at the time. He says, "Are you Santa Claus?" Shoot, my first reaction wasn't PG-13. I go, ho, 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 what do I have to do? And at the time, one of your trainers, and I spoke, and he says, "You need to understand nutrition." So that was my progress, in moving forward. And then, I don't know, God worked in a great way in this case, because when you're over 50, it is not easy to lose weight. I'm sure there's a lot of your listeners out there, Terry, that, would say, wow, I got this excuse, that excuse. Well, I had the biggest one, my age, right? And at the end of the day, God worked a miracle on me. And so I can inspire other people and be a part of great podcasts like this to tell people that it is never too late.
But you had an incident, right, where didn't you have a heart attack and actually go down? Can you tell us a little bit about that situation and what happened there?
I got to tell you this in a funny way, if it sounds crazy. So August 2nd, 2016, I had done an interview, and we talk about God. I said this earlier. So the interview with the local Fox crew was supposed to be on a Monday. The camera guy wasn't available, so it got moved to Tuesday. So I had the ultimate. I was at Orange Theory. I did not work out. I mean, for the TV, interview I did. I was sitting on a bench, and that's all I remember. I fell face forward. I had what they call the Widowmaker. So I had 98% blockage. Part of it was hereditary, from what I learned later. They turned me over because there was actually a class going on.
So this all happens inside an Orange Theory Fitness, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. And they turned me over, and they said that less than 50% of the people actually come out of on their through the Widowmaker. Less than 10% come on their own. I did both.
Wow.
So yes, I mean, August 2nd, 2016, I had a heart attack. I'm a survivor. But the funnier story relative to how, I've now 7 years, been a part of Orange Theory. And by the way, 9 days after, thanks to, my wellness journey saved my life. So, but 9 days after I had new stents put in at a local hospital, I was back in Orange Theory. Wow. And you may think I'm crazy, but the fact is that's what, this program had done for me. And in this case, you never know what's in your body. That's what I tell people. But, we just had this, I got my shirt on down below, it's the Hell Week. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
So all your studios, what do? They decorate Hell Week. So, your studio manager, I'm a member at South Chandler, Caitlin, she actually drew the death type thing, right, where, they draw the figure of the person. Yeah. And I'm laughing because that's actually where I died.
Yeah. and came back to life and have had some great success since then. You know, one of the things you spoke about, or you talked to me about, was, getting started. And a lot of people have this fear, right? They're afraid to go ahead and get started. I just did a podcast, earlier on the fears people have in the life. But can you speak to that a little bit about some of the fears that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome those fears? What were the fears, and how did you overcome them to get started?
Well, I think you break down, whether it's Orange Theory or a wellness journey or whatever it may be, wherever you go, box gym. I think the first thing is somebody motivates you. And that's what I feel, was really important. But I felt like my wellness clock was ticking, relative to, reaching a point, Terry, where I would not be around. Yeah. You and I did something recently where we talked, and I said, that's what death looks like. Your time with your job, because, I was a prisoner of my job. I'm a sports marketing executive. So, I've worked for some of the biggest teams in the world. Okay. So the bigger picture is it's very time consuming. Like I said, you're a prisoner of your job. So I'm in a space, Terry, where I needed to be able to find a community that would motivate me before I reached that time. Because, like I said, your time with your family, it's done. Your time with your life, it's done. I don't remember anything that happened August 2nd, 2016, but I do remember a lot of positive motivation that I received. Next thing is, then as you start to do like I did on that October 12th, 2015, where I started to realize the value of nutrition, you guys actually have, what do you call them? Transformation challenge, I think you call it, right?
Yep, for sure.
And so imagine this. So I'm embarrassed to, in the first one that happened.
So one of your fears is embarrassment. One of your fears is being embarrassed, going into the studio, being embarrassed in front of other people.
Right. So,
I don't look the way that I want to look. I'm going to look different than everybody else, and people are going to look at me, and I won't fit in. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, 100%. I didn't fit in life. I tell people I used to cringe. This is a good subject. I used to cringe when I'd go to a restaurant when the hostess would say, do you want a booth or a table? I didn't fit in a booth. I didn't fit in my Southwest Airlines flight. Yeah. You know what I mean? I always used to have to get an extender, that type of thing. So I wore a 62 size pair of jeans. All right. So it's like, I have to go see Omar the tent maker, to get those done. But bigger picture than that is that I went to one of your studios, and everybody, it's coming up. The average person, I think, during the holidays gains 15 pounds, right? And then you come back and you're, I'm going to do the transformation. I'm going to do something, in January, New Year's resolution, right? So I basically woke up after being kind of motivated. I'd reached about 100 pounds lost, 69 pounds lost. And then when you take that 35, so I was over 100 pounds lost, from the 450, which was the beginning. But point I'm making is I told the studio that I was going to lose 40 pounds in 42 days. Wow. And I did.
Wow. That's
but guess
big.
What? I finished third in that studio because there were two newbies that had more weight to lose. And now, we've made it more scientific, but here's the point. I realized I was winning the game of life. And ultimately, that's what a wellness journey could do for somebody out there that's listening, is that, listen, I tell people, I couldn't walk around the block. And now, as you know, I've done 29 races.
Amazing.
I've talked about finish lines versus finish times, 16 half marathons.
Amazing.
And, I traded my 62 jeans for a pair of shorts, that I wear now that I can fit into a size large, depending on the day of the week. But more importantly, I've made all these, positive signs because of accountability. So I started becoming accountable. And then a lot of people would come up to me and say, well, what was the show that was big on one of the networks, the world's biggest loser?
Right.
Well, first of all, I'm not a loser. Neither are you, right? Anybody that shows up for a wellness journey is not a loser. They're a winner. So I used to just tell people I'm one of Orange Theory's world's biggest winners, right? Yeah. But the point is that was so fake. You know, when that article came out recently in today.com, actually somebody wrote on Facebook, oh, he's a surgery person. I sent him my workout. What I've done 2,250 workouts in 7 years, basically burnt 1 million calories. And at the end of the day, that became the third component to your question, sustainability. So motivation initially, then it was the goals started to happen. You're accountable and, you know, you track your food and you do your thing. And then you're sustainable, you know, and even now, dude, Terry, I will tell you, I am not as thin as I was. My wife thought I was getting too thin, Laura, and we've been together 40 years. But more importantly, I got COVID and I got gut health issues, and I kind of went back to the drawing board. And you got to listen to your body. I have a tendency to work out too much. Like I'm actually taking off today. That's hard for me to do.
Everybody needs a break. I just did my first podcast of the new season was about taking a break, and everybody needs a break, you know? So congrats on doing that. Yeah. You can burn out. What about attitude, Neal? You talk about attitude a lot. And so you just gave us 3 points. You talked about overcoming your fear of embarrassment, but tell us a little bit about attitude. How important is your attitude? And we've all read the books and we've listened to the videos and the motivational speakers, but can you just speak to how you keep a positive attitude and how you keep your attitude and energy up?
Well, dude, I will tell you this. I have a dear friend, Brad Kelly. He's now a scout for the Kansas City Royals. Brad and I worked together at the University of Miami. And we kind of were going back and forth. I remember when I reached about 100 pounds, and he says, you know, it's all starts with attitude. And that's kind of what I would say to your listeners. Attitude. And attitude's like a flat tire. If you don't fix it, you don't go very far. And the funnier story relative to that is I come up with that, right? And granted, I tell people I had a flat tire. You know, I needed to fix it, right? And I actually did. Terry, I was driving to one of your grand openings in Tucson. Here in Phoenix, summertime, it was July 21st. I remember it, 2016. And I was going to do a TV interview with the ABC affiliate, you know, there as part of that opening. Point I'm making is that I got a flat tire on my truck. It was terrible. It blew out and everything. And I'm laughing like heck because, you know, obviously I wasn't going very far unless III came. It was like 110 degrees. But more importantly, I kind of realized, in addition to the attitude, that you need to show up. You need to show up and you need to be consistent, you know, because ultimately, to me, it isn't necessarily about being the best. Okay. It's the best you can be. And that's what, you know, we hope everybody, you know, gathers from today. You know, I'm not a super athlete. You got to look at me. Listen, I was fat. Now I'm just less fat. Right? But ultimately, I'm proud that because of this, you never know what's in your body, that I'm able to be here for our sons. I got to see both of our sons graduate from college. You know, we live in those spaces of wanting to do those type of things. So
longevity.
I would tell you that attitude, you know, like I said, attitude is like a flat tire. If you don't fix it, you don't go very far.
You have a phrase I've heard you talk about being the CEO of your, I say, you know, you're the president of your own life, but I think you have a series of being the CEO of your life. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I think those are great thoughts and points to share with the listeners.
Well, let's say this. I'm 65. I'll be 65 in February. Okay. So I want to relate and create a chain reaction of inspiration for others through lifestyle transformation. Okay. That's our goal here. That's what you do. Okay. And And I love it, what you do with your podcast, because you're giving people back, what you've learned. So that's, to answer your question, I call them CEO cornerstones.
What are they?
So the first one is you are the CEO of your life. So if you're 20 years old, 30 years old, it doesn't matter. Ultimately you reach a point where, whatever reason, in fact, I have this funny little story, and you remember I told this in a different situation. I talked about when you're growing up and you start to play youth sports, right? Okay. And you're so fired up, your parents are so fired up, you soccer, softball, whatever it is, okay? And they bring the treats. It's their turn to bring your treats, right? You probably did that for your daughter once or twice,
for sure.
And what did you bring them? A sugar-based drink, or a bag of chips, right? And then you progressed, and maybe you played high school sports. And what did the coach do? He took you to Mickey D's or Burger King after you got a victory, right? And then you go to college and you get unlimited food on the training table, right? And that's all great. But guess what? It serves as a foundation for failure, because once you get into a real job situation, you get out of college or high school, whatever it is, you have responsibilities. So being the CEO of your life is the first part of the cornerstone. The second thing is, like what you do with your locations, you're the CEO of your community. So you want to find a regional person, a studio manager. You want to find somebody that is a part of that community and embraces it. Okay. Everybody kind of does that in the beginning, whether it's Orange Theory or working in sports like I did, or it's whatever job it is. You want to do things to be a part of the community. Then you progress like you're doing right now, and you're the CEO of your legacy. There's a book that we've talked about, Alchemist. And in that book, the shepherd basically goes through, trying to figure out what his life is about. Okay. And he has his goals. Okay. And in our case, what we do is we realize it's not about our goals. It's about helping others find theirs. And that's what a CEO of your legacy is. And finally, we have kids. Some of us have kids. Some of us are just, part of a family. And that is probably the strongest thing that is your transformation. In my case, I got to spend an extra 7 years because I'm the CEO of my family. And that is what it's about. I want to add something to this. I've also learned how to be a parent. And I think that being a parent is not what we initially thought it was. Okay. When you're growing up, you're in Pennsylvania, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, I grew up in Pennsylvania.
And so what would your dad tell you? I'm your dad. I love you, but your mom the same. But they would remind you that they're a provider. That's what they live for, right? That's what that farm that you had, right?
Yep.
That's what it was, right? And then you kind of, go to another stage. Your daughter gets a little older. Our son's got a little older. What do? You want to spend more time with your kids, right? And you do that. And then as they start to get a little older and they're going to get out of the house, you kind of want to make sure that they follow the rules, right? So you're a disciplinarian. But ultimately, Terry, what it has become, and what I'm so thankful that Orange Theory and this wellness journey has given me the opportunity to be, and people like you as an owner, care about your members and your staff, and you show that every day. But here's the most important thing to me. The evolution is, it's great to be a provider. Yeah, it's great to, basically spend time. And it's great to do, the rules and be a disciplinarian. But the ultimate thing about being a parent is sacrifice. Sacrificing to basically help your kids become a better echo of you. And ultimately, I'm sure you lived that with your daughter, right? With what she's done as a veterinarian, and since she's got out of Penn State, right?
Yep. Penn State and then Purdue. But, I listen, I say this all the time is success doesn't happen without some type of suffering or sacrifice. People have given up time. People have given up, so many things. They give up money. You give up time. In some cases, you sacrifice doing the things that you want to do to put the time into your business, to put the time into your family. And I've done that for my daughter. You've done that with your family. You've done that in your life where you've sacrificed certain things, but it's a little bit of suffering, right? And so success just doesn't fall in your lap. You know that. It didn't fall in your lap. It hasn't fallen in mine. Sometimes you do have to pay the price. Great tips from Neal Bendesky. What's next, Neal? I know you got a book coming out. It's called, what is it called? Never Too Late?
Never Too Late.
Never Too Late. What's the meaning behind that? Never Too Late.
Interesting enough, a lot of people think because I'm in sports, Terry, that everything for me is from this journey. I mentioned Bob Bodine earlier, and 199 and Mr. 3000 and all this other stuff and the different things that I've learned along the way. But ultimately, this 199 and this whole thing came from a movie called Crazy Heart that starred Jeff Bridges. He won an Oscar. You remember that?
Yeah, for sure. I know that movie.
Okay, so here's my parallels. Okay, Never Too Late. He was 57 in the movie. I was 57 when I started.
Okay.
He was an alcoholic. I was a binge eater.
Okay.
Right? Okay. He wrote a song that Colin Farrell performed, and, basically, I'll tell you at the end what he said, and that's where it came from. And then I wrote a plan. I followed Orange Theory, and then I kind of, learned about nutrition because that was on me. And he performed in Phoenix. And where do I live? Phoenix. Right? Yep. So ultimately, when you put everything in together, I remember like it was, so vividly about this Never Too Late, is that in this case, Jeff Bridges goes to collect his first royalty check from this song that he wrote, Crazy Heart. And he looked at his manager and he said, I told you there was still gas in the tank. Right?
Yeah.
And for me, I looked at that and said, it's never too late. It's never too late to transform. And like, a couple of years ago, your group, PR group in Chicago, had me do an interview with Men's Health. And one of the things they liked is, what is our goal? What are we trying to do today? Create a chain reaction of inspiration for others through lifestyle transformation. That doesn't mean just be in the gym. That doesn't mean just walk. It means how you live your life, and learn from others. And that's why, I was honored to be a part of your podcast, because that's what it's about. You know what I mean? Yeah, we know that you're Orange Theory, we love it. Okay. Yeah. But at the end of the day, there's more to it that goes into the development side of what you do. So I'm just thankful for this opportunity to share this story today and tell people it's never too late. And yes, you can get my book. Go to my website, www.199guy.com. Okay. Or reach out to Orange Theory in South Chandler. I'm usually there every day. Okay. Because I love it, because it's become something that is a staple in my life. And listen, go. No,
I'll let you finish up. Go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is that, a lot of people out there are sitting on the couch, and that's fine. Okay. I kind of tell people, well, we went from the couch to the concrete. We run these races in the Rock and Roll Running Series. I mentioned that, but it isn't about, it's about finished lines, not finished times. So, when you wake up, go and show up and set your goals to where you can finish. And you don't have to be at the top of the list every day, because that's one of the things about Orange Theory. You don't necessarily have to compete against anybody except yourself.
You're talking to Terry here at Tuesdays with Terry. You just heard it straight from the 199 guy. He's got the book, the 199 guy. It's Never Too Late. You can go to his website. You can also see Neal. He's out running half marathons. He'll be in San Antonio, I think, in a couple of weeks. You heard it where he talked about getting motivated. He talked about accountability. He talked about sustainability. He talked about your attitude is like a flat tire. He talked about being the CEO of your life, your community, your family, and your legacy. He talked about, different parallels in his own life. But man, don't let fear stop you from going ahead and getting started. My name's Terry. I'm your friend. Neal, I'm your friend. Thanks for being with us today.
Yes,
Tuesdays with Terry. I look for you out in the studios. Thanks for tuning in.